We're going to get started. So welcome everyone to this chat. And I know we have, Ellen mentioned we had about 80 plus people registered, but we've got 24 people on here right now, which is great because you're all on one screen. So that's fantastic. It's really nice. And as you know, we've been doing these check-ins for phys ed and health teachers across Canada, and also for physical and health education teacher educators, which is the focus of this call. And it's really just a chance to literally check in and connect with other people and have an opportunity to share what's going on. And we thought this was a good time to check in early October. You're well into your term, and so we'll kind of take a moment and share where we're at. I will let Lorraine introduce herself in a second, but Lorraine is the chair of the PHE Canada Research Council, and she is my co-host for this evening. So Lorraine, take it away.
Hi everyone. I already had to fix my camera. I'm having issues freezing, which I think my students are actually enjoying. So if I freeze, I'll just turn it off and on. But yeah, I'm Lorraine Sauls. I'm at the University of Alberta in the Faculty of Education. I'm excited to be here tonight because I'm teaching curriculum and pedagogy phys ed course right now to majors and minors, how it's set up in our faculty. And it's online. So it's been a challenge. I have to say that it's probably more challenging than I was anticipating. So I'm excited to hear some ideas from all of you and the challenges you face, but also what's working for you. U of A is moving to 30% online, or up to 30% online in the winter. So I just worked on the application to hopefully get some of my pre-service phys ed teachers in person for some of their course next term. So I teach the majors in a 5-week condensed course next term, and I'm hoping to be a little bit in person. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and learn and discuss with all of you. So thanks for joining.
Excellent. And we won't go around and introduce because there's just way too many people. But as you kind of check in and take a moment to talk, it's great if you could share where you're at. And so just a couple reminders. I know maybe we don't need any reminders of Zoom etiquette anymore, but if you can keep your mics muted unless you're talking, and feel free to use the chat. Ellen just posted in the chat, speaking of that, good segue. We are recording this, and the video and a summary of the chat will be posted on the PHE Canada website, where all the other stuff is as well. A little bit later, Ellen will also put a link in here to the PHETE sharing folder, which I think was started a little bit on the impetus of somebody named Steve McGinley. I can't remember if that was his idea or not, but probably. And so Ellen set up just a Google Drive to share some things, whether it's different assessments for online or ways that you've rejigged or reshaped some of your lessons and excuse me, lessons and things. So Ellen just put that link up now. And we really have three main topics. The idea was just to share. We have a little less than an hour together now. So we wanted to start actually with a little bit of just what are the things that are a little bit difficult right now? What are some barriers that you're facing? Because maybe other people have faced and overcome the same ones, or maybe it's just that we can feel that we're all in this together and we can move forward. We do also want to talk about successes, because we have heard from some people that some things are actually working pretty well, all things considered. So feel free to share a few of those successes. And then I think it'd be great, and Lorraine and I talked about just kind of the next piece of what's next, like where are you going at your institution? What are the plans moving forward? How are we going to build on this and continue to move forward? We're hopeful we're not going to be in this kind of state forever, but what are the learnings we can take forward, and how can we move that way? So I think without further ado, Lorraine, if you're good to go, and if everyone's good to go, we'll just start, open it up for your comments. And again, we do have, there's like 21 participants here, plus Lorraine and I. So if you can keep your comments deep and meaningful, but a little bit on the short side so that people can connect and continue to build on a conversation, and either wave or say in the chat that you'd like to talk, or just unmute your mic and just say, hey, I'm ready to say something. So what is maybe not going very well right now? I kind of hate to start off that way, but we're going to finish strong. Yeah, Charmaine, I see you waving. You're still muted,
You're
Charmaine.
muted, yeah.
Still muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now we're good. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, sorry. I teach PE in an elementary school, kindergarten to grade 6. And for me, one of the biggest struggles is making sure I follow our district's health and safety plan, and especially with equipment. I don't know about other provinces, but here in BC, our students were put into learning groups. And since I'm the PE teacher, I'm exposed to all the learning groups. So I have to make sure that the equipment isn't cross-contaminated. So that means if a child passes a ball, it can only be used for that particular learning group. So for me, it's having time and enough equipment for everyone to use. And then at the end of the day, the amount of cleaning and disinfecting that has to be done is horrendous. And the custodians don't really like me right now because it all has to be cleaned and sanitized. And then if the students can't touch the equipment, like helping me pass it out and clean up, the other issue is I'm so busy setting up and taking down that I'm losing valuable teachable time. And also when there's downtime, kids are off task, they're bored, but it takes me time to get everything set up because they can't touch the cones or the hoops or anything. So I'd appreciate any suggestions with that.
Yeah, thanks, Charmaine. Janice, go ahead.
Am I unmuted? I echo everything you're saying exactly. I teach K-5 in Peel region in Ontario. And again, most of our time, a lot of our time is set exactly what you said, setting up and taking down, cleaning. We put out cones at distance, and I find kids don't come with the urgency to stay distant the same way adults do, and they haven't had the exposure, so they need contact with others, and that it's so hard to distance them. So we haven't really brought out very minimal equipment. We're doing a lot of rock, paper, scissors games and relay type things, ladder games where they make the ladder but at distance, and it's been a very big challenge. And I hear everything you're saying about how long it's taking to set up, take down, and sanitize.
Yeah, thanks, Janice. And I will just mention sorry, Ellen, I'm forgetting what the name. It's the PHE hub, PHE Canada hub. It used to be PHE at home, but there's a ton of resources and activities there that focus on minimal equipment, having kids outside, games and activities with social, physical distancing, all those kind of things. So I think, yeah, it's great to, to share these and figure out. PHE Learning Center. Thanks, Ellen. So sorry. I can't keep that name in my head. My bad. But yeah, it is. And I think that one of the main things is just to keep connected with your district protocol and keep checking in. And the big thing is it's going to be different. It's just going to be different. And we'll have to move that. And I wonder how, like, what type of barriers are kind of the people that are teaching our new teachers coming in are experiencing with some of this stuff too, in terms of how do we prepare people for this. And I wonder, Marianne, can I pick on you to ask about how the practicums are going to work in your faculty?
So specifically in phys ed or just generally?
I think generally is okay, and then people can weigh in on whichever.
Okay, thanks, Doug. And both Doug and Loren know my great big news. Just I want to start by extending my deep gratitude to all of you that are teaching, and just from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We have 911 student teachers out in the field right now. Some are beginning, or some start on Monday for their longer practicum, their AFX, and then tomorrow we have students starting for their IFX. And I've heard back from some of the AFXers, and they are so totally impressed with the mentor teachers, just overwhelmed by all you're doing. So I heard about the cleaning, you know, how long that's taking, and I really understand and appreciate that, because of course that takes away from your teaching time when you're doing all that sanitizing. So I think in general terms, Doug, that's it. Of course, we do have elementary teachers going into the elementary schools. And then, as you and Loren know, we also have the majors in secondary education going in to teach physical education and health in junior and secondary and senior high. So haven't heard anything back. I don't know if you two have, but specifically to your subjects, our subject area, but the comments that I've heard back generally have been very positive. So again, thank you to all of you who are out there teaching.
Yeah, thanks, Marianne. I wonder if Alex, since you opened yourself up to being called out because you posted in the chat, which is not meant to deter anyone else, but can you talk a little bit about your process of recording experiential movement videos of yourself by yourself and what the purpose of that is, maybe?
Definitely, absolutely. So one of the things that I was struggling with when I was thinking about how to re-envision teaching, how to teach physical education online to the pre-service teachers was that experiential piece. And so actually, Dr. Haley Morrison, who was at the U of A, we've been working together and chatting, and came up with these experiential learning tasks that students are doing. And they're either taking videos of themselves, depending on what the task is, or, you know, taking a picture and having a written piece. But it's really hard for me to show examples when I'm by myself, to record myself doing these movements. And I think that really brings attention to the fact that this is remote emergency teaching, and this is not online teaching. And so that's something that, and you know, if you have partners or family or anyone, you know, they also are working too. So it's not like you can just go to the park and have them do it all the time. So that's something that I've been struggling with.
Thanks, Alex. And just to clarify, Alex, are you teaching elementary pre-service or secondary or both?
Thanks, Lauren. Right now I'm teaching 2 sections of elementary phys ed, and this is their only phys ed course that they'll get in their education.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. From a personal note, I'm struggling with the same thing as well. And I've kind of gone away from recording myself. I teach secondary, and I find the secondary, you know, outcomes are, a lot of them are game strategy or manipulative. So you're not focusing on, you know, you are focusing on the individual skills, but not as much as those fundamental movement skills that I find are a little bit easier to record with just yourself. So I would be interested in knowing anything anyone else is doing regarding that experiential learning piece, or recording yourselves at the secondary or elementary level, if anybody has any suggestions, because I'm feeling Alex's pain as well. And I think the first couple that you record are kind of fun, and then after that, it's just not fun anymore.
And Alex, I think your point about this is still emergency teaching is so important, because this is, we're still figuring this out. We're still moving forward and trying to do the best we can. And I know that teachers in the school, and we have a few here on the call too, that they're obviously in the same boat. And I've been, my wife is a junior high teacher, and it's been a little crazy. And part of it is just, it's doing less with less, and it's doing the best we can, but recognizing all the limitations and all of the constraints. And so, and I do think the students appreciate it. The students get it. Maybe some more than others, but yeah, it's important to just remember that piece. This is not normal times, right? So.
Can I add to that, Doug, or ask a question? I've got my elementary teacher candidates doing a group teach, and typically we would do this in the gymnasium where we obviously experience the PE lesson plan for 30 minutes based upon a topic of fundamental movement skills. I'm curious to hear if anyone's attempted to do that online, and are the students able to transfer that knowledge into an online format through a presentation?
Yeah, good question. I'll open it up to people on the call if anyone's done that. So trying to have people teach in some way, shape, or form, peer teaching, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think we're going to brainstorm some ideas next week, but I'm curious to hear if anybody's been able to achieve some sort of peer teaching through experiential learning PE classes. We may find that it might be a richer knowledge of the content or the process to deliver, but I think it's that enacting that piece would be difficult to simulate online, but open to any feedback.
Yeah, and I will throw out. I haven't done that yet in this. I'm not teaching this term, so for which I have to admit I'm breathing a little bit of a sigh of relief. But I know just in discussion with Haley, who Alex mentioned, who Haley teaches with Lorraine and I at U of A. I know in the spring with her class, one of the things she did was had them engage in a teaching task with a friend, with a relative, family members, neighbors, kids. I mean, as long as you're in the bubble and all those kind of things. But then the focus was not as much on sharing what they taught, but sharing a reflection afterwards on how it went and what they learned and what those pieces were. So it may be that we have to shift a little bit more to those pieces in terms of the both the reflection on practice and reflection in practice. Tim?
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, I've actually done that for the last 5 years, that type of task. So teach anything, and the focus is not on the teaching itself, but it's on becoming aware of the decisions you're making in the moment and that sort of thing. So it's been in a reflective practice class. The feedback from students has been that that's been their favourite assignment throughout this reflective practice class. Now, I don't know if that'll transfer over to other situations that Steve's talking about, but there is some value in that. Am I allowed to share something I'm struggling with, Doug, please?
No, everybody but you, Tim.
I'm out of here. See ya.
No, please.
Yeah, so this is something that's very fundamental, I think, and that I probably didn't give as much credit to, but it's having a massive effect on how I'm teaching and how I'm feeling about teaching. But usually in a face-to-face environment, I know the names of the students in my class. I learn them within the first class. I can get a class of 40 first, no problem. And learning names is so basic, but having a face to put to the name helps you learn the names. And it's something that the students value incredibly. And it comes back in feedback time and time again, and it becomes part of who you are. You're the person who remembers people's names. So in my class of 59, after 4 weeks, I can put faces to 3 names. And that is having a massive effect on the satisfaction that I get from teaching, my identity as a teacher and who I am and how I teach. So there are things that I don't think I've even gotten to the how do I do this well? It's just like, how does this affect what I do and who I am in what I do? And it's something that I was not prepared for that at all. So I'm not necessarily asking for a solution, but actually one of the problems is the platform. We have to use Microsoft Teams, and for some reason it won't work on my computer, so I can only see one person at a time. Where it's suggested that we get students to turn cameras off to reserve bandwidth and all of that sort of stuff. Some students may not want to let the whole class into their living room or basement, and that's totally fair enough. But these are really big challenges. So that's something I'm struggling with.
Thanks for that, Tim. I would echo that's probably a big challenge, but also for me, lack of motivation to teach, right? I love going to the class and getting to know the students and having those conversations. And I feel that's also how we get to know our students and remember their names. And at the beginning of class, when I say, try to have a conversation with 34 people online, nobody says anything. So it is really hard to get to know our students. Some of the strategies that I've used that have helped me get to know 2 more people than I would have normally known, it's definitely not a solution, but I gave a questionnaire at the beginning, just to get to know you questionnaire, which I normally give. But I write 3 things about 3 people every class. So for example, I have a twin and a triplet in my class. And then I have 2 swim instructors that have shared some aquatics information with us. So it just helps me remember their name. I've also got them to change their name on Zoom. I know you're in Teams, but I could put Loren Saul's swim coach, or so they put something new kind of every couple of classes so that the other students can kind of get to know them. I mean, these are very minimal solutions. I do not know, I for surely only probably know maybe 10 of my students' names, and that probably wouldn't be consistent. So I do feel your pain, and I find myself not as excited to teach, and I'm always excited to teach my PE courses. So for me, my challenge is definitely getting motivated to teach through Zoom. So I'll open that great question up to anybody else who has some suggestions or similar experiences. Marianne, go ahead.
So Loren, what I've been doing, or what I did too in my questionnaire, is I asked the students, and I have 60 in my class, I asked them to insert a photo. And so they did that, and I can look at that and then make some connection with their names. And I do have, during my office hours, I ask them to to turn on their audio or the video. I don't know. Again, that's one of the ways that I'm doing that, connecting with them and remembering their names.
Yeah, and I've had my students share their videos throughout the whole, I do 2.5 hours at a time for lectures, and they have been really great at showing their videos, and they're okay with that. I haven't forced them to. I just say, I'd really like to see your face, and they're nice enough to turn it on. But I do understand students' hesitation with that for sure. Anyone else want to share some insights regarding getting to know our students through Zoom?
I just want to chime in and forgive me. Hi, everyone. I'm Adrian. I'm from Edmonton. I work with Everactive Schools, and some of our work involves collaborating with pre-service teacher educators. So I've had an opportunity already to work with some students from the U of A, as well as Concordia University here in Edmonton. So again, I don't know what the privacy PIPA kind of regulations are, but it reminds me, Tim, when I hear you speaking back to my elementary teaching days, and I know I used to have my occasional teacher or visiting teacher binder, and it would be hard for them to come into a classroom. Sometimes you got those joker kids who try to pawn themselves off as a different name to say, I'm Steve, even though I'm actually Eric. So we would have a little, like those little photos of each student attached with their name. So at least the teacher could be able to put a face to the name. And so I don't know if maybe that would be a possibility for you, and I think maybe being open with your students and say, look, this is not my style of teaching. This is not how I'm feeling connected to you as a group. I'd like to propose this idea. And I think with that, I would like to think with the openness that students would be willing to maybe send you a picture of themselves. Maybe they'll get a little wacky with it. Maybe they'll just, be straightforward with it. But as you're having those conversations, you can then maybe transfer between name and picture. And I still get the sense like it's not that same connection as physically being in the space with them, but maybe that helps to bridge the gap a little bit.
Yeah, I think it could be a good opportunity for them to learn something about teaching as well, strategies that they can then start to use themselves, and the value of learning students' names and how they form relationships and those sorts of things. So thanks, folks. I appreciate those suggestions. They're all very helpful.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if Teams does the breakout rooms, but those have helped me too, because it's just smaller groups, and then the students can get to know each other as well, and it breaks up the 2.5 hours on Zoom.
Yeah, I was going to say the same kind of thing. I really feel your pain, Tim, in terms of, I mean, that's, and probably for all of us, one of the reasons why we teach are those relationships and connections. And I would spend the whole first week playing cooperative games and team building activities. And that's something that we're very unique in phys ed and health, is that's how we start, right? Like it's hard to do. And I, as I mentioned, I'm not teaching an undergrad this term, but in the summer I did teach a grad class. And one of the things that worked much better than I ever thought it would was I opened up the class. I started opening up 20 minutes earlier. I ended up opening up a half an hour earlier. And we just called it we did a fika break, which is the Swedish coffee cake kind of thing. But in Zoom, because you can do the breakout rooms, what I would do is the first people would come in and I would just chat and get to know them a little bit. And then once there were 4 people, I bumped them into a breakout room so they could chat with each other. And then I would proceed to chat with the next ones that came in. And as soon as there were 4, I bumped them in a room. And until the class was full, and then the last 3 or 4 were stuck with me to talk. But it worked beautifully just to chat back and forth. And I know sometimes we don't have time between classes, but that certainly helped me in the summer of feeling a little more. And I only had 24 students, so it was a little bit better. But yeah, that connection, and I want to maybe move forward from something that you mentioned, Tim, too, like your own motivation to be teaching, your own motivation to, and Loren, you mentioned this too, like to be excited to come to class. How are you maintaining that right now?
I'm not, is the answer. I'm not maintaining my motivation. One of the things that Haley said that really is stuck with me, that I think describes us teaching on Zoom and just, you know, is impacting our motivation is through this online teaching, we can hear and see our students, but we can't feel them. You know, you can't feel their energy. You can't feel if they're understanding something. You can't feel if, you know, your joke landed, right? You don't feel anything that's happening through the screen. So definitely impacts the motivation to get online. Marianne, go ahead.
Well, one of the aspects that really motivates me is, again, the breakout rooms. And Doug taught me how to pop in and out. And so I have guided questions, and just to hear those conversations, be able to contribute to some of them, I find really energizes me, and just hearing from their own experiences. And that's sort of what the questions are, to build on their experience and to add to the readings. So I have a professional tennis player in my class, and just to hear her experience and how she's, you know, incorporating social justice really motivates me. I get really excited.
Yeah, Chun-Li, go ahead.
I'm at the Faculty of Education at Brock University. Over the summer, our program, teacher education program, and also our health phys ed group, instructors group, we met on a regular basis to be prepared for the upcoming challenging semester. Also, we have the tech experts to support us. They also give us general guiding principles for the course design. So we follow the program recommendations, most of us, I would say. So we have to teach less for quality. When we design, we teach like, we call it PJJIS 3 levels. But anyway, it's about the elementary or secondary schools in Ontario. Like twice a week, each time 3 hours for 6 weeks. So in total 36 hours. So what we designed, the program recommend teach synchronous in real time for a short period of time, like in the, let's say, Monday and Thursday. So 2 sessions each week. So we teach only on Mondays. All the Thursdays sessions would be online, asynchronous. Even for the 3-hour session, it's recommended to only teach like for about an hour. And on Thursdays, one of the 3 hours would be the office hours. So what I designed, is it clear so far to everybody? So it's a program-wise, consistent practice. So what I designed is on Mondays, the first hour or before should be the preview session. So I have a pre-recorded lecture posted ahead of time. So students can watch that during that first hour or before, anytime before. And the second hour, we have a live session. In live session, I only address key issues. Then we usually, the primary, majority of the time is spent in group discussion in breakout rooms. So I already pre-arranged all the students in their own rooms, about 5 of them in each room. And then the third hour would be the informal office hour or drop-in, or extend the live session as needed. So that's synchronous. Then the asynchronous, the office hours, the drop-in, student can get help and study on their own or in their body system or group work. So what I found, there both have advantages and disadvantages. So I noticed in our face-to-face previous years of teaching, they don't really care the lecture part a lot. So they don't pay much attention. They only want to do the practice and teaching, like peer teaching stuff. They don't want to listen to you for too long. But in this online session, I use a flipped classroom model. So this time, it seems to work well, because in what I designed, I didn't follow the module idea. Instead, I put it in the forum. In Sakai, we call it. The forum means you open your postings would be in public place, like in the classroom setting. So everybody can see each other's. So everybody can respond to each other's. So I noticed they have read or listened to my previous recorded session lectures. They noticed a lot of details and they learned so much, even much better than the face-to-face sessions. So I was surprised. So that makes the group discussion more meaningful and deeper than usual. So that's the advantage. One of the advantages I noticed, so great things. Of course, there are many, but I just want to mention one. Another one is this disadvantage, is that we can't show or demonstrate how to teach or lesson do the peer teaching. That's what I mentioned in the article. I just sent in the chat and published in the Brock Education Journal. They have a great call as earlier in summer. So we predict the problem and provide some solutions. Also, there's an online model I developed with working with the tech experts. But anyway, the difficult what I found in so far is halfway now. It's interaction, and most of them don't want to turn their camera on. Even I put it as a required in the course outline. I know I don't want to push too hard, but I encourage them, because I said I don't want to talk to a bunch of machine. As you would prefer the same thing when you go to school to teach. You don't want to talk to all the machines. So I try to encourage them. It works a little bit, but most of them wouldn't turn the camera on. Even I say you can change your background, fancy anything, but they somehow changed. Another difficulty is interaction. Maybe because internet delay, like we are doing now, not like face-to-face. So they tend to have not much involvement. That's why I put a lot of questions in the group discussion. I usually put at least 3 or 5 questions to lesson select. So they really engage. So I even sneak into their group discussion in Teams. I can get in, but all of a sudden they change. 5 of them, they start talking and a lot, not like in our situation with the whole group. So that's the disadvantage. But today I really feel a big change halfway. So we get to know to each other. Tim mentioned that the difficulty is knowing student name. I agree with that, but I also find the opposite way, opposite some effect is that student name right in front of us on the screen. So I don't have to work too hard to remember all their names. I just can see that. Put the name on their face if they have a camera on. So that's something I feel both advantages and disadvantages. I will use some great things. Even when we're back to normal, I may use more pre-recorded lectures. Okay, I think that's good enough from me, although I can share more if you have questions.
No, that's great, Chun-Li, and I appreciate the balance of things that, you know, things that actually can work better in some ways, and opportunity for students to revisit recorded lectures and go back and learn, or even, you know, that was an interesting point. I want to see that again, and to be able to rewind things is really cool. But then also just the restrictions. So maybe that's a good segue to kind of move into a little bit both successes and where do we go from here. So, you know, how do you build on your learning from these last really, it's been like 6 months, almost 5 months anyways. So how do we build on this maybe and move towards the future? Maybe if you know a little bit more about what your university is doing, as Loren mentioned at the beginning of the call, for us at U of A in the winter term, we're moving to being allowed to have a little bit more face-to-face instruction, but still the default setting is online. We don't know what spring and summer are going to look like yet, but so yeah, what are you able to build on? What are your hopes for the future, other than just see you later, COVID, let's go back to whatever we did before?
Perhaps while people ponder that question, Doug, I will just highlight that folder link that Ellen put on the chat. It is from the PHE working group. So the PHE Canada has put together a working group for PHETE instructors. And this working group has met several times since online teaching has started. And they've accumulated a folder of resources. I've stolen lots of those, so that it's a great folder, and we keep adding to it. So if anybody has anything to share in that folder of activities or assignment that's working great for you, you can add to that folder, as well as you can borrow activities and resources from that folder. Steve McGinley has kind of led that working group with Carolyn T. and Ellen from PHE. So I might just pass it over to Steve to share kind of what that working group is, and then we can further talk about those supports and what our hopes are moving forward.
Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity that we connected immediately after COVID hit to pivot to the online learning, and we were able to quickly share ideas on formatting online courses, what's working, what's not working. And now it's really turned into a collaborative sharing session of assignments, etc., and assessment tools. I think one piece that we learned quite quickly was setting up the modules and how will that look online. So I'll just quickly share in the chat one nugget that we created as a result of a summer institute that we helped conducted at UBC. And it was based around guiding questions and this cyclical process of getting these students in each module to explore or play with some ideas. So that could be pre-recorded lectures, content, resources, website, and they would be doing this asynchronously. They would create an artifact related to the module topic. So for instance, if it's a QPE, creating a lesson plan. Then we would have them assess their work, either peer assessment, self-assessment, or create a rubric, etc. Then we would have them adapt what they've created, and we would specifically look at EDI or physical adaptations, COVID guidelines. And then we would synchronously share and reflect their learnings from the module during the synchronous time for about 90 minutes to an hour. So, I mean, that's one of the pieces that we've been sharing, and it seems that the working group have tailored that piece to share. But it's an organic group. It's very open and welcoming. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of people are sharing a lot of great nuggets. So feel free to email, I think, Ellen, if you wanted to get on the email list, and we meet every 2 weeks, and our next meeting is next Thursday.
Thanks, Steve. And as I said, it's been a great folder and people have really contributed some great things. So it's been really useful. So thanks, Steve, and everybody that's been involved with that. There are the next 2 meetings, I believe, are October 14th and October 28th. So I think you can email Ellen for information on that, and you're welcome to join and contribute to that folder. So I will go back to, Doug's question about what our goals moving forward. Any other supports that you can share, or things that worked?
I have a few things that have worked for me. One of the things, can you hear me? Oh. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks, Charmaine.
Okay, good. One of the things that I have found to be a great tool for promoting physical distancing and are very easy to transport inside, outside, wherever you are, is pool noodles. They are approximately 6 to 7 feet long, or 2 to 3 meters. They're easy to transport, they're light, they're easy. So when I play tag games, I teach the kids that they can only hit below the waist and to tap gently. And I've been using them outside tons. So when I go outside, I don't have to haul really heavy stuff. Like pool noodles are light. They're easy to clean afterwards. And any kind of tag games, I use pool noodles. And the other thing I wanted to mention is with COVID, the one good thing I found is I've really had to challenge myself to take that extra step and challenge my own professional development by being creative and thinking of more things I can do outside that I normally would have done inside. So my outdoor instruction has multiplied immensely. I don't know what it's like further east, but here in BC, it's been gorgeous, 18 to 22 degrees most days. So I'm often outside all day with my students. So not only are they getting fresh air, but I'm learning how to keep them focused outside, which can be a challenge for little ones. And I'm also coming up with different games and ideas. For example, I've translated the playground into an obstacle course. I use chalk. I use the hopscotch. I've put out an agility ladder. They go up and then they go across. They do the monkey bars and they love it. They love the obstacle course. So a couple good things have been the use of the noodles and also the idea that we're now challenging ourselves to take that extra step and try something new. And for me, it's been doing more outside.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Great ideas.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I would echo Loren's comment that hopefully that increased time outdoors is something that stays. Like that's something I know in my neighborhood in the kind of the thick of COVID, like in April, as soon as we started getting nice weather, and even when it wasn't so nice, I saw way more people outside walking, doing things with their families than ever before. So I'm hoping we can build on that sort of thing a little bit too, to really connect and maybe sometimes get away from what sometimes is still the old school or traditional way of doing, doing phys ed, if it has to be team sports and it has to be this and that. But instead of going, no, we're going to go for a River Valley walk, or we're going to go and do some of these unique activities. So that's kind of where, when Lorraine and I were talking about this call, we were kind of thinking about what are those things that we've learned or that we can build on moving into whatever this, hopefully a post-COVID era looks like. So that's great. Thanks for sharing, Charmaine. I know I'm going to cherish all the screen time that I have every day. I'm just going to keep that close in my heart. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, it's super fun. The other thing that I would add that I hope that stays, and reflecting on my own teaching, I think I'm doing a better job of this through online, is hitting the dimensions of individual activities, as you know, as well as dance and gymnastics are a little bit easier to show online than those games and dual activities. So I think highlighting those to our pre-service teachers in a greater capacity has been a benefit to me and my instruction, as well as I think the K-12 teachers perhaps are doing a bit more of those activities because of the social distancing compared to those traditional sports where there's more contact. Chung-Li, go ahead.
Yeah, do you mind I share the screen of host disabled participant screen share? That's okay if you don't want me to share, I can just talk.
Sure, yeah, we'd have to give you permission. So if you can just talk, that would work.
Okay.
Oh, you just received permission, so you should be able to share now.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Screen 2. That would be. Can you see my PowerPoint? Yes or no?
Not yet. Maybe
No?
just tell us about it, Chun-Li. It might be simpler if you just tell us. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think this is probably the best time to teach those individual lifetime physical activities. So we have 5 major, I just want to show you the 5 major categories. I think, Steve, you were in my session when we talked about categories of physical activities in Whistler, BC, that conference. So we have five categories. We named that like a GDAM, the games, individual physical activities, dance, alternative environment activities, and mindfulness activities. So we use tons of time, maybe majority of time, many teachers, maybe most of teachers teach games, but we don't teach like individual activities a lot, dance, alternative environment, and mindfulness. This is the perfect time and the best time. We have to, because the health concerns. So I think in the long run, when we finish, no matter how long the COVID, I don't think it's going to run 100 years or 30 years. So in the long run, it's a balance out for the 12 years student in the school. So think about this bigger picture and longer period of time. And also we all students to they deserve learning those individual lifetime, alternative environment, mindfulness stuff, and dance. So those 5 categories, now is the best time to address other 4, not just the team sports. So that's my my view of the COVID-19 and the future, and the whole wider issue in the long run, to long-term view.
Yeah, thanks, Chun-Li. Yeah, it is interesting to, and I think maybe we're pushed a little bit to push ourselves a bit to see what we can do differently, to see how we can challenge our students differently. But that doesn't make it easy all the time either, but overall it's good. We're slowly moving towards the end of our time here. We don't have a next meeting scheduled yet. We do have the meeting, as Ellen posted, the next PHETE sharing meeting is, which sounds kind of odd, but physical and health education teacher educators. So there's an email thread you can be added to if you email Ellen. And the next meeting is October 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then the next one is October 28th. So thanks to those who have been doing that work to put that together. I just know, regardless of being in a pandemic or being in quote unquote normal times, collaborating with other people and connecting and talking about our own practice is really effective. So I'll just open it up for any thoughts to wrap up, or Loren, if you want to add anything, or and anyone else, of course.
Yeah, I was just gonna, echo kind of what you alluded to, Doug, was the collaboration that's come out of COVID for PHETE instructors is something that I hope stays. The sharing of, resources for our courses and, talking to each other about what works and what doesn't, I think is beneficial, COVID or no COVID. So I hope that is something that sticks. And I'll open it up to others. I've also learned through Zoom that silence is okay.
Actually, I'll just chime in really quickly. So my name is Justine Wilmot, and I am a first-time teacher in Manitoba at an elementary school. And so I sort of have an interesting position where I'm challenged with creating my own stuff for the first time amidst a pandemic. And so some people already have, what they normally teach, what they like to teach. Well, I'm figuring that out while trying to figure out how to socially distance and everything else. And with that has come with other challenges, like my gym has been turned into a classroom. So now I have to teach everything outside. But where I'm going with this is, as far as wrapping up and feeling a bit more positive about moving forward, is I have a background and a specialization in outdoor and experiential education. And I am very excited in being able to develop things that I've always wanted or thought, okay, this is like my dream job. I want to be able to do outdoor education, integrate that into physical education. And right now is the time. Right now is the time for that, and there are other teachers in the school who are watching and seeing what's going on. And now they're bringing their students outside more and integrating physical education into their core subjects as well. So like there's a lot of cross-curricular things happening, and I think as teachers, we can model that amongst ourselves and gain momentum in creating new things.
Thank you, Justine. I think that is fabulous. And just shout out to you. As a first-year teacher, I can't imagine teaching my first year in this situation. So I know you're doing wonderful. My kids are in elementary, and their teachers are just their superheroes. So I know your kids are loving you. Great job taking them outside. And I think you're right. Like, I think this is something, we can value the outdoors more, but I hope people are also valuing movement and how movement impacts our mental health and our well-being holistically. So I think that is something we can learn through COVID, and that I hope teachers are advocating for, and teachers who aren't phys ed health teachers are also advocating for. So thanks for sharing that.
And I actually can't really think of a better note to end on than the resiliency and strengths of teachers to embrace new things and to try stuff and see things as an opportunity, not a barrier. So thanks so much for sharing that, Justine.
And don't forget the resiliency of our students, because having to teach outside is really testing their limits. And I think that while the weather is nice, there's going to be a lot of, positive attitudes. But as it's been getting colder, people are slower to put on their stuff to go outside, right? And so if we can maintain resiliency within the students, this is going to be a huge win for having people being physically active for life.
Okay, so that was the better even way to end right there. That was even better than the last one, Justine. I love it. It is so, so important. So I think we will wrap this up here because I know it's late some places, and I know I got the knock on the door that supper's ready. So I'm fortunate to not be the one making supper tonight. So pancakes for me, loving it. So thanks everyone. A big shout out to PHE Canada and Ellen, who's running things behind the scenes here. Thanks Loren for co-hosting, and thank you to everyone for coming and listening and learning together. And we hope to see you on the next one, whether it's a connection with phys ed and health education teacher educators, or it's a connection with health and phys ed teachers. But just check the website for the next dates, and we will see you soon. Loren, you get the last word. I never let you have the last word.
I know. I'm just going to talk for hours now that I have this opportunity.
Well, I gotta go.
Your pancakes will be cool. No, just shout out to all of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing good work, and stay motivated and keep collaborating. This was great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much for hosting. Thank you, Laurie and Doug.
Thank you, Chun-Li.
Thanks, Chun-Li. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.